Hi everyone, it's Stephanie Weaver here in the Blue and Yellow Kitchen with my friend Christina Adams, visiting via iPad. Hi Christina.
Hey everybody, good to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you in the kitchen with us today. Christina's book is called Camel Crazy, A Quest for Miracles in the Mysterious World of Camels. And we're going to talk about, it's a kind of a reported memoir. What are we making today in the kitchen, Christina?
We're going to make the camel milk smoothie from Camel Crazy. So I guess we could call it the Crazy Smoothie.
The Crazy Smoothie, great. So we'll be making that a little bit later. So tell us, so you fell in love with the camel at the beginning of the story, and the story is also very much about your son and his autism. So tell us about falling in love with the camel, meeting the camel, and how you kind of started on this journey of learning about camel milk and its properties.
It's very interesting to hear it said that someone fell in love with a camel, but initially that's not really what happened. But overall, as I grew to learn more about camels, I certainly do absolutely adore them. So it kind of started quite a few years ago now when I was at a children's book festival here in Southern California, and I saw a camel standing there. And I was a newly separated mom, and I was already the author of a first book called A Real Boy, A True Story of Autism, Early Intervention and Recovery. And so that book had been out for a while, and then I was a single mom-to-be, and I was at the book festival with my son, and, kind of bored. He was reading and doing well enough that I could let him sit there and read by himself and go find out why a camel was standing there if no children were riding this thing.
Christina, how old was your son at the time that you met the camel?
He was 7 years old.
7,
and
okay.
So, yeah, and he's a young adult now. So I went over and saw that camel and looked at that camel and had no idea I was about to step into a vortex of camels. But then I went, there was a guy selling soap and lotion made from camel milk, and I had a few words with him. And after that, I had the idea that the camel milk might improve my son's autism symptoms, which were connected to his immune status and what he ate. So after that, I just went crazy and found camel milk and had to fly it in from Bedouins in the desert, and it changed his life and mine.
Yeah, and so one of the things I find really fascinating about your story is, so you were an investigative journalist before you wrote this book? Am I remembering that right?
I had been a journalist earlier in my career in Washington, D.C., covering all kinds of national events and military events. Then I went into public relations for aerospace and worked for the government and things like that. So then I got a master's in writing. And so I was really on the literary fiction path. But then autism entered my life, and so I turned into more investigative and health writing, combining my literary technique with my reporting skills.
Great. So it's important because the way that your story unfolds and the book unfolds, it's really clear that you're also an investigator at heart, like myself. You have this problem, right? Your son has this condition and has these symptoms, and like every mom who's dealing with autism or parent who's dealing with autism, you want to do anything you can to help. And so how did you hear about that camel milk had immune boosting properties, and when did you make the connection with autism and perhaps, not that it's a cure, but that it might relieve some symptoms? When did that happen?
Well, it was kind of immediately, because based on what I had done, which I detail in my first book, A Real Boy, I had really turned into a real health investigator as part of my parenting role, but then also as part of my professional writing role. So I really learned the underpinnings of looking into the autism immune connection and immune connections to many disorders. And so when I met the guy with the camel, I just said, hey, what are you guys doing here? And he said, we're selling soap and lotion. And then I said, what else do they do with the milk? And then he said, well, they give it to premature infants in hospitals in the Middle East, and it's thought to be non-allergenic and maybe close to human milk. That's when I had the idea. It was the intersection of all the research I'd already done and the medical intervention my son had, which was well documented in all his testing, and then my idea that the milk may contain properties that could help his immune system. So it was kind of immediate, but then I went home and researched, and there was zero on the internet, and then I had to call all kinds of people and reach over to Israel and get some Bedouin milk. So it was quite the journey.
Yes. And I would say, it's really clear there was a doggedness to your approach to this. There is a curiosity and openness, which I love. And you literally traveled all over the world. You've met camel raisers all over the world. You're highly respected in these communities, which is just really impressive and remarkable. And there's a wonderful, for those of you who are thinking about getting the book, there's a wonderful photo section where you'll see all the places Christina's been, all the places she's spoken, all the people that she's met, including Amish communities here in the United States that raise camels. And so this whole, it's really like a medical mystery story, and it's about her son and herself, and kind of exploring these different communities. And I just found it just fascinating. So let's make the smoothie, and then you could talk a little bit more about your son's response. So walk me through what's in the smoothie, and I'll make it, and then we can taste that, and then we can talk a little bit more.
Okay, so the smoothie, initially I wasn't a smoothie drinker myself, but when it comes to camel milk, now I will say the first thing people say is, what does it taste like? And then they drink it and they say, oh, it just tastes like milk. But there is an initial resistance on the part of many people because people in America don't really know about camels. And so everybody gets kind of weird about it. And even people that do know about camels, such as many people in the Muslim community, or say some people from India or the Middle East, they still maybe have not tried the milk themselves. A lot of these traditional cultures that have been gifted with camel milk as a heritage, they have lost the connection. So I was always looking for ways to get it into my son. So he would drink it plain a little, but it was never his favorite. So I tried the chocolate syrups. I tried strawberry syrups, different kind of things. But then I thought it's time to do a smoothie, and he liked it a lot, but then I also like it. So I have camel milk in my house. It's really the only milk we drink anymore, and I drink a smoothie myself. So I started experimenting with the smoothie a few years ago, and just that's the thing, like a smoothie can be a base concept, and you can tailor it so many different ways once you get comfortable.
Great. So we've got a half a cup of the camel milk. Now I'm using reconstituted camel milk powder. I'm not promoting this particular brand, but it is available online from retailers. So you follow the packet directions to reconstitute it to the right consistency. We've got a cup of mixed berries, frozen, so you want them frozen, and then a quarter cup of whatever kind of fruit juice you might have in your house, and then a quarter cup of coconut milk. Now why, or coconut water. Now why coconut water, Christina?
Well, in certain health type of communities, people that really need to maximize what they eat to get the maximum kind of feeling good out of it and nutrition out of it, there's debate over what's the best type of thing like this to use. So some people like agave as a sweetener. Some people like coconut water because it has potassium and has half the sugars of fruit juice. So that's one reason I picked the coconut water. And also it's well tolerated by a lot of people that have allergic responses to other kinds of liquids.
Okay.
And you want to keep sugars low for some people. Like if you have diabetes, if you have other things that are impacted by too much sugar, or a lot of our kids with autism spectrum disorders, they can kind of really wig out if you give them too much sugar. And so that's one goal, to keep the sugars low.
Sure. So if you need additional sweetness, and I'm going to make mine without just to see, because I suspect the fruit is going to be sweet enough in the fruit juice. But you can add a teaspoon of agave syrup or date sugar. It's one that Christina recommends. If you have a really high quality stevia, it can be good depending on your response to that. Or like a natural unbleached organic sugar is fine. So we're going to go ahead and do our blending. So it'll be noisy for a minute, and then we'll come back. Blending complete. Through the magic of video editing, you didn't have to listen to the blender. Yay. All right, so Christina's got her Moroccan tea glass. She's got a shot of camel milk. And I've got my Moroccan tea glass. Morocco is a camel culture. So cheers, Christina. She clink. All right.
Yep. Virtual clink.
Oh, nice. It's very, very frothy and light. It's not too sweet. I'm glad I didn't add. I don't like a lot of sugar in my stuff, so I'm glad I didn't add additional sweetener. But I can see if a kid is a picky eater, you might want to add a little bit of agave syrup or date syrup. It also just depends on how sweet your fruit juice is and all that. But yeah, it's really creamy. It doesn't taste highly dairy-ish, but it has that nice sort of creamy consistency that a dairy So it has almost more of a milkshake kind of feel to it, which I would think kids would really like. And I love the raspberries coming through really nicely. Great. So you said your son. So what kind of symptoms was he showing pre-milk? What kinds of things were you guys struggling with him?
Well, let's see, pre-milk. And I had, as I said, I'd written my first book, which kind of covers some of the things we struggled with. And for him, it became apparent early on that drinking any kind of cow milk or even the products like cheese on a pizza, milk powder and crackers, all those things would cause him to have a worsening of his autism symptoms that were not good autism. You know, there's many wonderful things associated with being on the autism spectrum, but things like detachment, staring, hand flapping, and walking in circles, and being removed from your surroundings mentally, which can create danger, those are not good. And then also he had red rashes on his cheeks, and a lot of the kids will have dark circles under their eyes, called them allergy shiners. So when I removed cow milk and other milks from his diet, he got so much better very quickly. But then he was doing fine. He still had some issues. That's why, though, I was really still searching for something that I didn't know would turn out to be camel milk. But when I gave him the camel milk, he got so much better. Just it's actually so amazing. He got better overnight. I gave him a half a cup of camel milk in the evening with cereal at bedtime, and the next day he was so much different, so much better, so different that it was really incredible. So he's one of those children that if he eats foods pretty quickly, you'll see the effect. And there are kids like that. Then there are others that need a more low and slow type of change. But for him, he stopped these hyperactive kind of things that would happen to him. He was getting very hyperactive at that point. And like only just a little bit of food might solve it a little bit, like protein, but it really didn't help. So the milk stopped all those breakdowns. It increased his increased his emotional output, his verbal ability to give voice to his feelings. Like he said things like, "Mom, I love you so much. You're so great. You do so much for me. You make my food. You make my medicine." You know, and it helped his motor skills, things like cutting food and walking more easily and getting his own backpack and stuff. So now that experience has gone on to be replicated by thousands of other children globally. So
Right.
That's kind of, the book explains how it came from me, the mom in the kitchen, you know, desperate every day, tearing her hair out, to writing articles that helped kind of grow this process around the world for other families.
Right. And so we want to be clear, it's not a cure, and your results may vary. And then there are other health conditions. Anything having to do with the immune system is an issue. So I have an autoimmune condition, and so I was intrigued when I read Christina's book to try to see if it might be helpful for me. So it's certainly something that's worth exploring, but I also feel like the book is worth reading just for your journey, the story of you finding this potential. Like, you didn't know this was going to help, and it was very difficult to import camel milk into the United States. So there's a whole, we don't need to go into it, but it's not easy to do. There's a whole customs thing, and you've had issues with that throughout. And then finding these people that are raising camels and getting them to trust you, and then, you know, encouraging people to try it once you saw your results. And so that was a little bit similar to my story with the migraine lifestyle and diet approach. Is, you know, when I hit on something that really worked for me, I felt like it was sort of my duty to help to tell other people about it. And there's no guarantee people are going to have the same result, but then I've now had thousands of readers who, you know, have written me and said, "Oh, this has made a huge difference for me." So it's really gratifying. That's partly why I wanted to share Christina's book, which came out last year, and we had a chance to meet. We've met a couple times in person, so she's a delightful person. But with the pandemic, you know, you had a whole bunch of events this spring that have been canceled, and so we know that that part of the goal of doing these kitchen counter conversations with authors is a way to help people just spread the word to new audiences about the work and what you're doing. So before we wrap up, there's some intriguing things that are going on with the potential with camel milk and COVID-19. Do you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, with the camels and camelids and COVID-19. So back up real quickly, just for people that are wanting to know more about the health aspects. And again, like I always say, it's not a cure, and it doesn't help everyone, but it is an excellent food source. And in the back of Camel Crazy, so the book is about the journey of you'll meet the amazing pastoral people and caregivers of camels who you will just absolutely love them, I'm sure, as much as I do. And I wanted to give voice to a lot of their unheard voices, those folks. But then in the back, I have a section on which health conditions it may benefit based on studies as well as anecdotal information that's done with these type 1 and 2, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, food issues, gastrointestinal, things like that. So, and then where to get it is in the book. I know what you want to know, and it's in the book. So what the fascinating thing is lately is with our dealing with COVID-19, it has come out both from 2 different places. They don't seem to be the same science group, that camel lids and then camels specifically also are being looked at for potential therapeutic treatments for COVID-19. So that doesn't surprise me because, as I've written about in Camel Crazy, they have some very unique antibodies. Camels are really special biologically. They're amazing. And they're part of the overall camelid family that has like guanacos, vicuñas, alpacas, and things like that. And then, so their antibodies are so tiny, and the way that they're shaped and the way that they're formed are very different. They're very unique among mammals. So those are being looked at for potential treatments. And camels naturally have a lot of antibacterial, antiviral resistance of their own. They do get diseases, but they're less prone to diseases than some other animals. And then, of course, the milk also delivers some really incredible benefits for a way just us ourselves to keep our immune system as strong as we can make it through the use of diet and healthy living. Right. So it's going to be exciting to see what the scientists come up with. In the meantime, enjoy your camel milk, and all will go well, at least as far as what you're drinking.
Yes, cheers. So yeah, and I think one of the things that I've learned is that packing nutrition into everything I eat, it has been such an important part of my health journey. And so being able to teach other people how to do that, and that food is not just healthy, but incredibly delicious. Like, this is a fantastic smoothie. If you got this at a smoothie bar, you would be very happy with it. You wouldn't go, oh, this must be good for me. I think that's the challenge that I've had really my whole career, is the impression that healthy food is good for us but doesn't taste good, and that is completely not true. So it's delicious to taste, and it's wonderful to have you here. So so that's our neighbor who has a very loud motorcycle, who's leaving for work. And so sorry about that. The windows are open. It's summer here, so it's she'll be gone in a second. She's pulling out. So we're gonna have, so you can follow Christina on social media. If you go to ChristinaAdamsAuthor.com, you'll find all of her links. She's doing tons of press and a radio show in the UK and all kinds of wonderful stuff. And she's writing, and she's out there as much as possible, given that we're all under quarantine here. And we'll also, so we kind of walked you through the recipe. The recipe's in the back of the book. It's pretty simple, so it won't be in the comments. But we'll have the link to purchasing our book from your favorite online or local independent bookstore. Christina, thank you so much for being here. I wish I could see you in person and give you a hug, but this is the next best thing. So cheers. Thank you for being here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Stephanie, thank you for doing this for myself and all those other authors out there. So we love you. We appreciate it.
No worries. So yeah, so follow me, S. Weaver MPH. You'll find this on Facebook Watch and also Instagram TV. And we appreciate it if you share it with friends. If you know anybody that you think might be interested in what we talked about, we'd love it if you give it a share. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you again in the Blue and Yellow Kitchen.